Be careful, my man. After Obama, I stopped getting emotionally invested in any politician. I agree. I know exactly what you mean, but this is not the time to make those calculations, because the alternative is fucking Andrew Cuomo. And I know for a fact that even if Zoran promises a whole deal and only gets like 10% of it done, it's still better than what Andrew Cuomo is promising, which is nothing. Okay? Here's a funny little update. Petite bourgeois capital strikes on behalf of the socialist candidate. Incredible things are happening. Hello, New Yorkers. If Cuomo gets elected, we will double our prices. No joke. I think this is very funny. There's going to be a petite bourgeois uprising. This is something Marx could not have predicted. Unironically, half the time when people say like, oh, Marx never had a statement about this, and it's like something that he's written extensively about. This, unironically, I'm fairly certain, maybe I'm wrong, but this is not something he could have thought. He could have foreseen, okay? Economists from across the world unite in support of Zohran Mamdani's plan for New York City, a bold yet practical blueprint to tackle the city's most urgent challenges. Yeah, this makes sense. One of the things that I find here, we'll start out with Zohran Mamdani. For those of you who don't know, Zohran Mamdani is a beacon of light and hope in an otherwise dark American future. And this is the reason why I have a lot of fears about how hard they are going to try to stamp him out. Luckily, it hasn't happened thus far, but through simply just incredible organizing and building a campaign, and also being a prominent fixture in New York state politics for quite a while, he is able to put together an incredible campaign. He's been ever present. He's been all over the place. He has made up basically a 40-point lead that Andrew Cuomo had over him, and at the final moment, the New York mayoral race is going to happen. The primaries, the Democratic New York mayoral primaries, which is basically the real mayor race, is happening in 4 days in New York. Okay. And America's mayor, Zohran Mamdani, hopefully is going to win. A lot of people have been attacking him, saying that he is inexperienced, he's too young, he's too radical. It's been quite interesting watching all this stuff. One of the takes that Peter Beinart had was, it's fine to ask Zohran Mamdani about globalize the Intifada. I get why it disturbs most Jews, but New York Magazine just published a 10K word. For the record, I don't even agree with this first part. I think it's silly bullshit. But New York Magazine just published a 10,000 word cover story arguing that Israel's committed hundreds, if not thousands, of war crimes in Gaza. Andrew Cuomo is Netanyahu's lawyer. What does it say about the media's view of Palestinian life that that's considered less important in this race? This is a fairly solid approach to the subject, which is that like Israel is doing a genocide, and the media is still way more hyper focused on like how certain words make certain people feel bad, and people that are just like being cynically using this like either hysterics or maybe even fears that they genuinely hysterically have in their hearts, or people who are like not even fearful but like are cynically making these statements in an effort to like attack the top candidate to defeat Andrew Cuomo. I am very fearful right now because Adrian Adam refused to co-endorse and even refuses to say don't vote Cuomo. Zohran needs their voters to win because as of recent polls, they're going mostly to Cuomo right now. I know. But hopefully Zohran's turnout method, which is, again, something that we always cope about every election cycle for outside of the box thinkers and anti-establishment candidates, will be able to overcome that gap. Who knows? She's been so disappointing. Yes, liberals will always disappoint you. Wait, what? Oh, Adrian Adams actually endorsed the Working Family Party slate. Adrian Adams, finally, after much hand-wringing, indecision, and mixed signals, says not to rank Cuomo and goes into blistering criticism of his tenure as governor. She also says to rank Mamdani, Lander, Myrie in some order after ranking her number one. Better late than never, I guess. That's not bad. That's not bad. Here's how ranked choice voting works in favor of Zohran. Zohran is the top dog here. So when she says don't rank Zohran number 2, but like says you should rank Zohran, Lander, and Myrie, Brad Lander is the third candidate, right? Brad Lander is like currently in third place. Lander has some voters that will go for Andrew Cuomo and some voters that will go for Zohran. But because of their cross endorsement, if people who ranked Lander number 1 are ranking Zoran number 2, all of a sudden that weighs in favor of Zoran on the 3rd or 4th round. You know what I mean? Like, depending on how people have ranked Zoran. This is one of the advantages of ranked choice voting. Today, I'm calling on the New York City Campaign Finance Board to lift this spending cap on our campaign as Andrew Cuomo's Republican billionaire super PAC, the largest in the city's history, tries to interfere in our democracy. We can't let rich donors silence the voices of working people. We refuse to let the city's future be determined by the whims of the wealthy. Bernie Sanders also came out and spoke on this. Why are billionaire super PACs spending millions to defeat Zoran Mamdani for mayor of New York City? Not complicated. They're afraid of a mayor who will take on powerful special interests and represent working families. They have the money. We have the people. Let's get out and vote. Did you see a lot of the canvassers for Cuomo casually just saying they're paid? Yeah, of course they are. If you are getting paid to canvass for Cuomo, do a bad job. It's not illegal. Do a bad job. It's for shit pay anyway. How are they going to check? How are they going to know? His campaign has nothing. His campaign does not have like real loyalty. If you've taken the money of the Cuomo campaign, it is your duty to do a bad job. Zoran getting a lot of big labor endorsements today. UAW has endorsed, or Sean Fain has come out. UAW President Fain and our New York City members are proud to support Zoran Mamdani. He's not owned by Wall Street. He's fighting for $30 an hour, free transit, housing for all, real democracy.
The UAW takes on some of the...
Be careful, my man. After Obama, I stopped getting emotionally invested in any politician. I agree. I know exactly what you mean, but this is not the time to make those calculations, because the alternative is fucking Andrew Cuomo. And I know for a fact that even if Zoran promises a whole deal and only gets like 10% of it done, it's still better than what Andrew Cuomo is promising, which is nothing. Okay? We know Andrew Cuomo's track record. I'd rather place a bet on a new face that is ideologically aligned with me, even if he becomes a charlatan down the line. I'm not going to think about whether or not this is going to turn into a Chicago mayor situation. I'm not going to think about how this could turn into a John Fetterman situation, which I don't think it will. I think if there's like a John Fetterman style situation, it's the other candidates that are ranked beneath Zoran overall. Cuomo is going to. That's insane. You took two of the things that Andrew Cuomo has done and sandwiched them together, it seems. I'm not even going to say that out loud, but that is an interesting campaign promise, but it feels like it's a little bit confused, because I think you just took two things that Cuomo has done independently and put them together. He does those things separately.
Richest employers in the country. Employers like Mercedes-Benz, Columbia University, NYU, Mount Sinai, and Sony. So we know a thing or two about how bosses act. They view the workplace like a dictatorship. The corporate class expects to be treated like kings. They want us silent, obedient, disposable. They expect workers to sit down and shut up. That's not just how they run their workplaces, it's how they want to run our country. That's exactly how Andrew Cuomo ran New York when he was governor. He bullied and harassed workers. He cut Medicaid in the middle of a pandemic. And when striking UAW members needed his support on the picket line, he was nowhere to be found. Those days are over, because across New York City, the working class is rising up. We are demanding higher wages, health care for all, a secure retirement, a home we can afford. Because here's the secret truth that the billionaire class doesn't want us to know. We are the majority. And when we stand up, nobody can stand in our way. We don't need another hack politician like Cuomo, someone who smiles for the cameras and then sells us out behind closed doors. What we need is a national movement that unites the working class.
Is this Grant Minor? Is that him? He's the Jewish student union leader, UAW student leader that was fired from his position and because, anti-Semitism. Why are you spending so much time on the New York City mayoral race? Part of the reason why is because New York City is a very important stronghold for Democratic Party politics. New York City in and of itself is a major city for the entire world, right? New York City's police department which the mayor would control, is larger than many countries' standing armies. So regardless of all of the corporate interests that dominate New York City politics, having a guy like Zoran there is ultimately going to prove a point that these kinds of politics are actually effective, even past the point of maybe even some of the gains that Bill de Blasio made, which should not be discounted. Bill de Blasio is actually such an interesting mayor. I mean, he's been dunked on quite a bit, but like he was significantly better than Eric Adams and many other mayors that came before and after him. And it's really interesting that like we don't really talk or think about his track record. Like, I mean, I think he did the free pre-K initiative. That was huge. Actually, speaking of some of the initiatives that previous mayors have been able to implement, what I find strange is how much people are talking about how radical and scary and pie in the sky these Zoran ideas are. Zoran's vision is. Yes, he is a socialist. He's a democratic socialist. He doesn't shy away from saying that. But if you look at the policies that he's running on, it's things that have literally been implemented. A rent freeze has been implemented in the city with previous mayors. Okay. He talks about free buses. Once again, a policy that he has directly been able to implement in the state assembly. Okay. So the idea that this is like impossible to do is so ridiculous. Nothing that he's talking about is like, he's not saying like I'm tackling the commodity production at its heart. Like we're gonna build workers' councils and create a dictatorship of the proletariat. He's just advocating for minor social democratic reforms that are super realistic for him as mayor of New York. So the notion that like these are crazy, radical, terrifying changes that he wants to fucking push for is insane. Another thing, cooperatively owned grocery, like state-owned, city-owned grocery stores, that is something that people have been able to do as 501c3s. Why the fuck would the state not be able to do that when they literally have all of the licensing and all of the other more costly elements of maintaining a chain of grocery stores? Like you could very easily do that. You could very easily start small and implement this as a project. This was also Brandon Johnson's promise as well, which I thought was going to be awesome. And the notion that this is like impossible, the notion that this is like an impossible thing is so stupid. These guys are actively the media is actively trying to terrify people into thinking that even modest social democracy is impossible to implement.